Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident fanalist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_dadam. Well, as I said on Packernet After Dark last night, if you didn't hear it, this team feels absolutely different. And fully acknowledging that we shouldn't, or that we should put the caveat on that it's week one, anything could happen. The Lions could go on to dominate the division and win the Super Bowl, and the Packers could miss the playoffs and whatever. This felt good for a lot of reasons. But I think most straightforward is that they checked basically every single box. Some more so than others, some maybe not quite completely at all. Jordan Love was not perfect, but he was very good. I think there was a Kraft overthrow and then a back-to-back near-pick situation that I don't know what happened. He just short-circuited for 2 plays that were almost catastrophic, and then we were right back at it. The run game was maybe not what was our wildest dreams. I think there's something to be said about the Lions teeing off trying to stop the run, and certainly something more to be said about how the run opened up toward the end of the game with the extra cherry on top of to seal off the game. The Green Bay Packers decided to run the ball down the Lions' throat, and were able to do that at will, including getting all the way down the field and running it in for a touchdown to seal the game. In the passing game, outside of Jordan Love, I thought the play designs looked great. The receivers were open. The receivers were running good routes. The receivers had very good hands, with the exception of Jaden Reed letting one go through his hands on a tough catch. The offensive line, again, the run blocking potentially left a little to be desired early in the game. The pass blocking was shockingly good, including by running back Josh Jacobs, who did a phenomenal job stepping up. And whenever his number was called upon, those blitzing linebackers and whatnot, he stepped up in a major way. The tight ends I thought were fantastic. Tucker Kraft with that reception. Obviously there was that other reception last year, back of the end zone, that one that was recorded as the fastest thrown football, in next-gen stats history, I believe, where Tucker Kraft dove in the back of the end zone. Outside of that play, it's one of the more impressive. It was certainly Tucker Kraft's second-best reception. Very impressive reception. One of those where, as someone that said, I like Tucker, but I don't know that he's ever going to be one of the premier tight ends, top 2 or 3 tight ends, receptions like that will get me to change my mind pretty quick, on top of whatever he was providing in the as a blocker and whatnot. But as far as the offense goes, just about every box was checked. Special teams. Waylon was about as perfect as you could get. All booming punts. When the opportunity presented, they were pinned deep. The special teams coverage unit was fantastic, including new addition Neiman, who was brought in as a special teamer and did his job immediately, showed up on the tape, the game script. Returning was a bit of a mixed bag. I thought the actual returns were great. There were no muffed punts. Jaden Reed had a big return. Savion Williams, I believe, very early had a big return. The issue, non-stop penalties for holding. That has to get cleaned up. Bo Melton and Bullard, I know, had one. I believe there might even been another one, but I'm not sure. And, of course, Brandon McManus missed nothing. One of the field goals scared me a little bit, but missed nothing. The defense. Good Lord, the defense. As far as the defensive front, I don't know what there could possibly be to complain about. Rashawn Gary with a sack. Lucas Van Ness with a sack. Micah Parsons with a sack. Devontae Wyatt with a sack. We'll get into the rest of the stats, but the run game, aside from a couple early pops, mostly breaking to the outside, basically not much doing there. The linebackers, as far as trying to nitpick, the middle of the defense was kind of the area they were attacking. Nobody really stood out as being a problem. I know one of the plays I was yelling at Quay until I went back and watched the the replay, and immediately you see that it was just very good offensive play design. They had a guy streaking across the middle of the field. Quay had to turn and run to keep up with him, and then they brought someone looping underneath that. There was another play, I think, with Quay where you could see that he was kind of running behind the guy, he was running behind Quay with Quay's eyes on the quarterback, so he starts, kind of going to that direction, not realizing that the tight end, I believe it was, stopped and ran the other direction. But he can't see. He's got his eyes fixed on the quarterback like I believe he's supposed to, which I think is done on purpose to manipulate the way that the Packers are told to play defense. That's what you're supposed to do as an offensive coordinator. Otherwise, Edgerrin Cooper missed a tackle on their speedy wide receiver that I think was, it's never okay to miss a tackle, but it's one of those, I think, where the speed was a little bit more than you're expecting. Didn't quite take the right angle. But otherwise, the linebackers I thought were fantastic. Very minimal damage across the board, and the linebackers obviously played a part in that, in the coverage and the run defense. I think the run defense in particular is, like I said before, I think is a big part of the reason why I wasn't really worried about Kenny, because not only was he directly not the guy that I thought was responsible for our success against the run last year, but because that position I didn't even think had a lot to do with it. No offense to the boys up front that did a fantastic job. The corners, I don't think were really asked to do much. I know if there was one guy that maybe got under my skin more than anybody, it was Keyshawn Nixon on a handful of plays. But I think, as is typical of this defense, it feels like the corners are just never targeted, potentially to the credit of the corners for just good coverage, but also immediate pass rush and a little bit of a softness in the middle and help with the safeties and whatever else. It just doesn't really ever seem to be a thing. I honestly, as hilarious as this was, I swear it was like the third quarter. I might be exaggerating that in my mind, but it was let's call it the third quarter, when I saw Valentine running like on a replay. It wasn't even like a catch or anything. It was just a replay, and I saw him running across the field, and I was like, oh, Valentine is out there. I didn't even notice who the corners were out there playing and all that. I didn't even notice. Aside from Keyshawn Nixon, who was thrown at? I'm assuming it was, Bullard and Nixon and Valentine, with Hobbs being out, right? I don't know. I know Bullard was out there a lot because he made several plays. The holding thing was not great on special teams, but I thought Bullard had a pretty good day. But yeah, these guys are they're not thrown at very often. And then the safeties, kind of similar. If you don't hear their name, you assume they're just doing a great job. But, of course, you have to add in Evan Williams with a pick. And not just any random pick. Some picks are better than others. Some are the ball got tipped. Some are the ball got thrown right to you or in your vicinity. This was like he read that and came down from deep and sniped it. That was a very good play. And, maybe that's part of the design for the defensive play called, or how he's coached or taught to do that. Maybe he was already coming down from depth to cover that position and just hit the freaking gas. Either way, very, very well played and an incredible catch. As I said last night, it's one thing for Micah Parsons to wreak havoc and then just give all the credit to him for everybody else's success. But, if you're giving Rashawn a one-on-one, he's still got to win it. If Van Ness is getting a one-on-one, he's still got to win it. If, an errant throw or a bad decision is made on a throw, you still have to be able to be there to bat the pass, to get the pick, to make the tackle, whatever. And that was a big part of the reason the Packers won. This was across the board a very clean game. Two teams that came prepared, ready to play, disciplined. Think how many times we didn't sit here and say, oh, there's a missed opportunity. There's a missed pick. There's another drop pass. There's a botched snap. There's a fumble. Another pre-snap penalty. Missed field goal. Shanked punt. Take these things for granted when they don't happen. Don't do that, because we sure know when they do happen and we complain like hell about it. We should recognize when they don't happen and be just as equally praiseful of the coaching staff, of the players, etc., for having these guys up and ready and prepared. But aside from offense, defense, and special teams and checking all those boxes are the team boxes. A lot of concern about last year. And again, I wasn't as concerned because they lost games to dominant teams. You know, it is what it is. But a big concern is, look at what happened in the division. Oh, you are a fingertip away from going 0-6 in the division. Well, that's right out the door, isn't it? Week 1 of the season, and that is in the frickin' dustbin of history, folks. This is not a fingertip. This was a beating. This was a beating of probably the best, aside from the Packers, the best team in the NFC North. This is not a narrow victory of the Chicago Bears. This was an absolute beating of the Lions. And likewise is the idea that, well, you know, you just beat a bunch of bad teams, but you couldn't beat any good teams. Now, maybe Detroit is just terrible this year. But as of right now, that also seems to be a thing of the past. So again, when I say this team feels different, even when the Packers were good last year, even though they did good last year, the things that were bad have kind of been checked off the list in the first week. And that doesn't even mention just the overall feel of it. The fact that it wasn't just that they happened to beat the Lions. You know, even back when the Lions weren't dominant, the Lions were always tough. We've always had a problem with the Lions. Even when the Lions were still kind of bad and we were quite good, the Lions were a team we just really struggled with. This was just an absolute beating, and the best part about it is the Lions didn't feel, to me, like a bad team. You can try to throw that excuse out there if you want. I'm sure there's some negative fans doing that. Well, that's what happens when you lose Ben Johnson. But you can't point to an example of them playing poorly. Again, you look at the play designs, they look quite good. They were fast, they were crafty, they were shifty, they were deceptive, they were all the things. But they just weren't better. You know, it's like the easiest quip that I can come up with when people talk about Ben Johnson is, well, you know, I'm not sure that it was Ben Johnson that caused Penei Sewell to block well. When do you think the last time was that Jared Goff felt that level of pressure in a game? Just never-ending, ceaseless, relentless pressure. I've mentioned it before, all the best defenses, the Legion of Boom and all that, they feel like they're playing with 13, 14, 15 guys on the field. That was the Packers. I saw a video, I forget exactly who it was, but he highlighted how, look at how many guys rallied to the ball, and at the tackle there were, I think, 7 of 11 players who were basically on top of the guy. And his comment was, this is what the Eagles looked like last year. And it's true, because that's what all dominant defenses look like. They're fast, they're physical, they pursue the ball. And this Micah Parsons edition, it's a bigger impact already than I thought it would be. Even as I was coming into it saying I got to tamp down my expectations, Micah Parsons comes in the first play that he steps in. I don't mean he was on there the first play. I mean the first play that he came in. I'm seeing Micah Parsons on the field, and the energy, oh my goodness, the energy. That was the loudest I think I've ever heard Lambeau Field. It was shocking. By the way, kudos to Matt LaFleur, who said he gave a shout-out to all the Packer fans that showed up and also called out all the fans that sold their tickets to Lions fans. Matt LaFleur has never been afraid to call out the fan base, and he should continue to do so. For doing the wave, for making noise when we're on offense, and all that kind of stuff. This whole, like, well, it's my experience. I can do whatever I want. Yes, you can do whatever you want. That doesn't mean you should. Also, I think the Packers should make some policy changes so that it is no longer can either. You shouldn't, and you can't. Because if you do, we will revoke your tickets. I've said this 1,000 times, but first of all, again, good amount of green, shockingly loud crowd, and fantastic crowd. Way too much blue. I know the Lions fans, they travel, they're going to do everything they can to get tickets, and they're hardcore, and they travel well, and all that stuff. And it's just a hop, skip, and a jump across the lake, but they still have to get the tickets. And some of y'all are selling all your tickets. And I think at best there should be a 3-strike policy, right? You can't make the game. You try to give it to Packer fans. Shucks, I can't find anything to do. You throw it on the aftermarket or whatever. You do that 3 times in a season. I'll say in a season because whatever, but you do that 3 times in a season, you are off the list. You will not be getting tickets, season tickets anymore. You're not doing it. You will be attending the games or you will be giving them to Packer fans. Anyways, crowd is going freaking crazy. It was funny because even when they were cut away to some other screen, and I'm trying to watch the screen, the game, but they keep showing some video or some other nonsense graphic that I don't care about. But you can just hear if Micah Parsons was on the field. It was the funniest thing in the world because you just hear this loud, raucous crowd, and you're like, well, Micah must have come out on the field. Sure enough, as soon as they come back, of course, the first thing they hone in on is that number 1 sitting there. But that first play that he comes out, you see Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness, and just again, it's a feel thing. Not that the feel means anything. It still has to be something, but the feel felt real, and it's kind of like momentum. You can tell me momentum's not real all you want, but it's just a thing you can feel, and everybody else can feel it, and I'm pretty sure it's a thing. All right? Shut up, Mr. Numberman. I don't want your freaking message about this. But I don't want to just trivialize it, or I should say minimize it either. Because it does start there. It was just this different feel to like, holy crap! Like I don't know. Before anything even happened, it was just this is big. This is whatever this is. I don't know what this is. I don't know what's about to happen, but something big is about to happen. By the way, apparently they call it the Cheetah package. Let me find that real quick. This is from Ryan Wood. Packers unveiled new package today with Micah Parsons, Rashawn Gary, and Lucas Van Ness on the field together. Parsons says the team calls it Cheetah. Van Ness got his sack in the package, lining up at defensive tackle, which a lot of us have been talking about, right? Could they possibly get all three on the field? Well, they did it, and they did it a lot. And they did it from all different positions. And yes, that did mean Van Ness on the inside. It also means, of course, Micah Parsons on the inside. Not sure if he was going to do it week 1. Oh, he did it week 1. He was inside. Van Ness was inside. Micah was on the left side. He was on the right side. Everybody was everywhere. But then immediately that first play, you see this guy that, it's like I've built him up so much in my head, but at the same time, it's like, you got to temper your expectations, and you've been looking at highlights, but, that's not real life. I mean, he's going to win some, lose some. And you watch him go against Penei Sewell and just push him out of the way like he doesn't exist. And the crowd just gets crazier, and he comes out again, and he does it again, and then, they double team him and somebody else gets there and somebody else gets there. There's a weird part of my pessimistic brain that has a hard time believing that something good can happen again. Packers drive down and score. On the next drive is like, I don't know if they're going to do it again. That was great, but I mean, you're probably not going to do that twice, right? I don't feel that way with this defense. I feel like this defense is kind of inevitable. It's not like they're not going to have weaknesses or problems along the way. But this pass rush feels absolutely legit. And the fact of the matter is, it feels like Rashawn and Van Ness and Wyatt and all the guys, they're still good. They got their sacks, they got their pressures, they had their good day. Like if Parsons wasn't there, this would be a fantastic day for everybody. But you still watch them play as compared to Parsons, and you're like, you guys suck, bro. Like, you're so slow. And it's just, immediately, and I don't mean to say they suck. I'm just saying it as a comparison. But I have confidence that this terrifying, aggressive defense is here to stay. And as I said yesterday, it's just going to keep getting better. I mean, this was with like a week's worth of trying to put something together with Parsons and trying to cobble something together with Parsons on a snap count, not really knowing how to use him. Now they've got some tape. Now they can have some time to go back and review and be like, this really worked and this kind of thing, and talk to the guys, Rashawn and Van Ness and everybody else, and of course Parsons, and try to come up with a couple different things and try some things in different ways. This was the trial period. This was him coming off of 6 months of not playing football and not being a part of the defense, and the defense not being familiar with him, and him not being familiar with the defense. And this was like the worst version of it, with him being on a severely restricted snap count. And as far as the offense, that kind of seems to be the case with Golden as well. As I said yesterday, I didn't really expect it. I did say that I thought it would take a while for him to ramp up, but I thought he would be on the field at least. It seems to me that that's going to also be a ramp-up thing, which could be annoying. Like if we had lost this game, all of the things I'm saying could be annoying. The fact that we dominated them, and you're looking at it and going, we haven't scratched the surface with Golden. We haven't injured Jaden Reed. We don't have Christian Watson back yet, who's coming back in 2 months, month and a half. Micah Parsons hasn't even gotten really figured out yet. And it's not just that Micah will get better, but the entire defense and the pass rush and the run defense should all get better once we figure out ways to utilize him. We went up against maybe the best team in football. Last year, the Lions, pre-injury, probably were the best team in football, including the Eagles. I genuinely believe that. I said it last year. This isn't just me after the win saying it. Didn't like saying it, but I said it. And that doesn't mean that's still what they are today. But my goodness, this isn't the Packers that we've seen recently, or even like in the really... You'd have to go back a long way to have something comparable, but it feels like recently my stance on it is the Packers aren't the best team, but they're a good team. They're a playoff team. And if things can go well, if things can go right, and if they can get hot at the right time, there's a chance. And it's still just a chance. But this doesn't look as much like we're down here looking up at our odds. This feels like, just based on today, and yes, I did say overreactions are going to be out of control, but I mean, I think it's more ridiculous to overreact to the negative. Positive can be too, for sure, depending on what it is. But again, like I said, we know that Micah's going to play more. And we know that they don't really know how to use Micah yet. And we know that Micah doesn't really fully understand the offense yet. Not to mention the defense hasn't even... I mean, it's still another year of trying to figure out the guys. Like, we don't have Kenny. Which, by the way, that's also pretty massive. Because this entire defense has been predicated on not only do we not have Micah, but we do have Kenny. Colby Wooden has been a starting defensive tackle for 5 seconds. Devontae Wyatt has been DT1 for 5 seconds. This whole defense has been cobbled together in the last minute. So yeah, with all the caveats in the world, understand that what this looks like to me, again, this is a feel thing, what this feels like, just like when we signed Micah Parsons, and it was a feel thing. Just like when Micah Parsons came onto the field, and you saw him and Rashawn and Van Ness lined up, and it was a feel thing. All of which has come true so far, by the way, but it's just a feel thing. Excuse me. Choking on my own spit. I watched that Ravens and Bills game with intention because I watched it from the standpoint of, are we the best team in football? And I will say, the Ravens, pretty terrifying. Not their defense as much, but it's a scary team. But on the flip side, you look at Buffalo and them just getting run over and kind of struggling on offense. And I saw Josh Allen throwing some should-have-been picks and whatnot. And I mean, they're a super talented team, but I'm going, I think we're better than them. And with the Chiefs falling already, and the Eagles nearly losing to Dallas, which maybe that's credit to Dallas, I don't know. But I don't know, man. Packers-Ravens Super Bowl sounds good to me. Is that too soon? Did I jump the gun? I apologize. All right, let's take a break. We got a billion little individual news and notesy things, as well as all of the stats to go through. So why don't we take a break? We'll be right back. Here I am talking crap about Buffalo. I kind of just stopped watching it because they had pulled away so much. And I was like, oh, crap, it's 10:30. I got to put the kids to bed. And go out there. Got to watch the last minute and a half or whatever it was. Quite a game. But all right, let's get through the stats of the game. Go ahead and pull up PFF. Why not? Because I'll like to read their summary. So, all right, first of all, quarterbacks. Jared Goff was 31 of 39, 225 yards, 5.8 yards per attempt, a touchdown, a pick, 88.6 passer rating. Sacked 4 times. Longest pass, 32 yards. Jordan Love was 16 of 22, 188 yards, 8.5 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns. 48 yards was his longest, 128.6 passer rating. Now, again, the 2 scary passes aren't listed, at least not here. They will be on the turnover-worthy play section. But the biggest thing that stands out is 188 yards, which obviously isn't great, but it's 88.5 yards per attempt. That is to say, there just weren't a lot of attempts in the game, and that's fine. The story here, I think, as far as Jordan Love is concerned, and the offense as a whole, is that they weren't asked to do a massive amount, and they stepped up when they needed to. Rushing the ball. Again, just highlighting what a great job they all did. Jahmyr Gibbs, who felt like he was having a pretty good day, at least especially early. You know, he had the 2 relatively big runs to the outside. 9 carries for 19 yards. That's it. Dude didn't crack 20 yards. If you'll recall, in my fantasy football thing, I don't remember exactly what the number was, but I believe it was around like 64 yards, and I said he would go for more than that. 19. 2.1 yards per carry. That is officially the lowest of his entire NFL career. David Montgomery, 11 carries, 25 yards, just 2.3 yards per carry. Now, in the last 2 years, he's had games at or around that, but they were for 5 and 6 carries, so very small workload. You have to go back to 2022 to see anything close to that. He had 2 games in 2022 when he was a Chicago Bear, where he had games of 1.5 and 1.7 yards per carry on 17 and 12 attempts. Since he's been a Detroit Lion for 2 years plus a game, he's never had more than 6 carries and this few of yards per attempt. For the Packers, Jordan Love, 3 carries for 4 yards. What was the fantasy number? Wasn't it right at like 4.5? Son of a gun. Josh Jacobs, 19 carries, 66 yards. He obviously didn't hit that astronomical number. He was maybe like halfway there. 3.5 yards per carry. Again, very slow going in the beginning, got better toward the end. He added a touchdown to that. 15 yards was his longest carry. It was the longest carry of the entire night. No Detroit Lion had a carry that long. Gibbs was 14, but hey, stickler for details. Kraft had a carry for 3 yards. That was hilarious. Chris Brooks had a carry for 1 yard. Emmanuel Wilson had a carry for 4 yards. In the receiving game, Jahmyr Gibbs, 10 targets, 10 receptions, 31 yards. Crazy to me that he had 9 carries and 10 receptions and managed just 50 total yards. In fact, it's a fun little stat here. Let me find it real quick just so I get it exactly right. This is from Field Yates. Weird receiving stat line for Jahmyr Gibbs today. 10 catches, 31 yards. That's the fewest receiving yards in a game where a player had at least 10 catches in NFL history. This wasn't a shutout, but in different kinds of ways, this was a really, really impressive defensive performance, which is a much bigger understatement than I meant it to be. Incredible, amazing defensive performance. I mean, think about what that offense looks like. I don't think it was this podcast. I think it was the last one. They all blend together, but it must have been Packing It After Dark last night because the comment was brought up about bend, don't break. And I said, this is kind of what everybody wants bend, don't break to be. Instead of sort of, we're just going to bend completely out of your way and hope something fluky happens, like you throw a pick or fumble the ball or something. This is, we're going to only give you just the tiniest little bit of breathing room. Instead of giving him 7-8 yards, they were giving him 1-2 yards and then making a stop immediately. 10 catches at 3.1 yards per reception. Sam Laporta definitely had the biggest day, and I think a lot of that came way down the stretch, but he had 9 targets, 6 receptions, 79 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown felt like he was going to have a pretty big day. He came up with some big third downs that made it feel like he had a bigger day than he did, but just 4 receptions on 6 targets for 45 yards. Tesla had the best play of the day, certainly for the Lions, I think just in general. 1 target, 1 reception, 13-yard touchdown. Montgomery, 4 for 4 for 18. Jameson, 5 targets, 4 receptions, just 23 yards. Again, it's one of those things where it's like, just think about what could have been. Think about all the things that upset you about this team. And all. Jameson Williams is that game breaker. How many times did they take those deep shots to Jameson Williams to bust open this game? 0 times. His longest reception was 11 yards. Khalif Raymond, 2 receptions, 16 yards. For the Packers, Jacobs had 1 for 4 yards. Reed, 3 receptions, 45 yards, and a touchdown. Tucker Kraft, 2 receptions, 16 yards, and a touchdown. Romeo, 2 receptions. I said above 2.5. It was at 2. Son of a gun. Romeo, 268. Wicks, 230. Probably shouldn't brush over too quickly the 68 receiving yards. Well done by Romeo. Wicks 2 for 30. Golden 2 for 16. That'll pick up. Musgrave had 1 for 4. Brooks 1 for 2. Fitzpatrick 1 for 2. Savion Williams 1 for 1 yard. Defensively, we won't go through the Lions' defensive stats. There's almost nothing to go through anyway. They had, 1 pass deflection, no interceptions, 0 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss. That was their entire defensive production. For the Green Bay Packers, the guy that led the team in tackles by a pretty wide margin was Edgerrin Cooper. That's 12 total tackles. Next highest was 9, which was Javon Bullard and Quay Walker. Bullard certainly did seem to be everywhere. Again, it was a little bit up and down. There were a couple bad plays in there, including the penalty, but I thought there was some good stuff in there. Even one of the passes he gave up, I felt like that was one of the third down passes to Amon-Ra St. Brown, where sometimes you look at a player and you think, you freaking bum, and sometimes you look and just go, yeah, dude, I don't know what you're supposed to do about that. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown, dude. I don't know what to tell you. You were doomed from the start. that was over before it started. Sacks registered: Wyatt with 1, Parsons with 1, Rashawn Gary with 1.5, Van Ness 0.5. Tackles for a loss: Rashawn Gary with 1, Quay Walker with 2, Wyatt with 1, Colby Wooden 2, Keyshawn Nixon 1, Van Ness 1, Parsons 1. Interceptions: Evan Williams. Pass deflections: Williams, the pick, as well as Quay Walker with a pass deflection. Special teams: Jaden Reed, 2 punt returns, 21 yards, 10.5 average, 20 yards is the longest. Golden, 1 return for 11 yards. Savion Williams, 2 kick returns, 39 yards, 19.5 average, 21 was the longest. McManus, 2 for 2 on field goals, 3 for 3 on extra points. Daniel Whalen, 3 punts, 164, 54.7 average. 2 of the 3 kicked inside the 20. 65 yards was his longest punt. Kaboom. Team stats: Lions ran 65 plays for 35 and a half minutes. The Packers just 47 plays, 24 and a half minutes. The Lions had the ball the whole freaking game. In part was sort of the bend don't break nature of the defense. The other side of that is the Packers scoring much faster than the Lions did. Third part of that being touchdowns compared to field goals. We win either way. Pretty sure, right? I don't know. Doesn't matter. We win either way, but it makes a big difference. Offensive yards: Packers 266 to their 246. They had the ball the whole game. They ran 20 more plays than we did. We still had more yards. We had 3 less penalties, 7 compared to 4, both for 40 yards, though. 3 touchdowns compared to 1. Field goals, both 2 for 2. Completion percentage: Packers 72.7, Lions 79.5. 200 yards compared to 188. Yards per passing attempt: 8.5 for the Packers compared to 5.1 for the Lions. Sacks taken: this is a fun stat. Obviously, we know it's 4-0. The sack percentage, I'm going to have to do a little bit of research on this, see if I can try to find something. I'm greatly exaggerating. It's 9.3% as a sack rate. I could be wrong, but that feels extremely high. To push almost 10% of your snaps, your quarterback's getting sacked. The 4 sacks went for 25 total yards lost. Total carries: Packers 25, Lions 22. Packers ran for 78 yards. The Lions ran for just 46. It's so weird because we lost Kenny and we added this complete liability bum in Micah. I just don't know why they only ran for 46 yards. And it's not because they didn't run the ball very much. 22 times is plenty, especially when you look at 2.1 yards per carry is all they got. It's crazy the Packers only got 3.1, which is pretty bad. And it's a whole yard more per carry than the Lions got. Rushing touchdowns, it's 1-0. First downs, they had 16. We had 14. Penalty first downs: Packers 2, Lions 1. Third down, Packers were 40%. Lions were 33%. Fourth down, Packers were 100%, 1 for 1. The Lions were 75%, 3 for 4. Red zone, again, this is a big deal. Packers 60%, Lions 25%. Pass deflections 2-1, interceptions 1-0, sacks 4-0. Went through a lot of this already. All right, final thing. I want to read their recap here. Then we'll take a break, and I want to clean up. There's so much that I haven't even seen yet, but it is after 11 o'clock, and I got to get rocking here. Did they not do the recap, or what's going on? And PFF is getting lazy. The only recap they have done is Eagles-Cowboys? You don't even have a Chiefs recap? Did everybody get fired? Where'd everybody go? Oh, here we go. Hold on. I think we got something here. First of all, key insights for every week 1 game. Nope, that was a preview. This is weird. So they got a whole new thing here. Bunch of different stats, and then at the end it just says generate summary or something. All right, couple more stats, I guess. They actually got EPA, which is kind of interesting. Team rushing reports. Both teams suck. They actually dislike the Packers more. Minus 0.21 for the Packers rush EPA. Minus 0.15 for the Lions. Average yards before contact. Detroit Lions, minus 0.2. Jeez. So when you look at yards after contact, Detroit 2.3, Green Bay 2.4. Yards lost on tackles for a loss, the Lions lost 9 yards, minus 9, Green Bay minus 2. Missed tackles forced, Green Bay 1, Detroit 5. Passing, Detroit Lions minus 0.07, 77th percentile. Green Bay Packers plus 0.55, 100th percentile. That's the percentile, I believe, is for last season, meaning that is the highest that I guess would have been seen last season. Pretty interesting. Adjusted completion rate, Detroit 86%, Green Bay 82%. PFF had Green Bay with 2 dropped passes, Detroit with 0. Missed tackles forced on pass plays, Detroit 2, Green Bay 1. Yards lost on drops, Green Bay 38 yards. Explosive passes 15 or more yards, Detroit 3, Green Bay 6. Yards on explosive passes, the Packers 141. They only had 187, I think. 188, but it said net yards, 187, I don't know. Deep completions, Detroit 0, Green Bay 2. 0 for Detroit. Deep attempts, Detroit 1, so they were 0 for 1. Green Bay was 2 of 4. Pressures, Green Bay 9, Detroit 20. 4 sacks for 25 yards. Green Bay had 1 hit, 4 sacks, 7 hurries, 1 unblocked pressure. That accounts for 11 by my counting, so I don't know where the other pressures come in, but that's fine. Time to throw, Jared Goff 2.92 seconds, Jordan Love 2.88 seconds. You got all the snap counts here. I don't think I super care about that. Not today, anyways. Initial PFF grades, interesting. Jordan Love 77.7. Wicks 75.3. Romeo 74.9. Sean Ryan 73.8. And then Sam Laporta 72.1. So those are the top 5 on offense. I thought those were the top 5 Packers. That's just the top 5. So Jordan Love would be the highest graded offensive player on the whole freaking thing, and it's a 77.7. I'll take 4 of 5. Kudos to Sean Ryan. A little nervous about everybody else's grades, but all right. Sam Laporta 72.1. And then initial grades for defense. Doing this live, so I don't know anything about the number 1 guy. I said I was nervous because of 1 missed tackle. Initial, subject to change, PFF grades. Edgerrin Cooper, 91.5 PFF grade. Evan Williams, 91.5 PFF grade. Boy, oh boy, that draft class, Gutekunst. All that talk about you getting fired, boy, I tell you, if that draft class continues, I don't know about all that. Brian Branch, 87.8. Devontae Wyatt, 82.4. Lucas Van Ness, 81.5. Off to a rip-roaring start. We got some quotes about him. I guarantee you Parsons is going to have like a 62 grade, and I'm just going to cancel my PFF subscription. That's a bridge too far, man. I can't do it. He better have like an... I'll give you a 79.9, and I lower than that, we got a problem. All right. think we'll leave that at that. We'll take a break, and then I'll come through and rip through some of the little nuggets that I found, all right? Take a break. We'll be right back. So we talked about Lucas Van Ness. A lot of talk about him in the offseason, doing really well. Then Micah Parsons comes here, and he just name drops Lucas Van Ness after being here for just a handful of days about how good he looks and everything, which was kind of unusual. You would think Rashawn Gary would be the guy that you would gush over, but he was just kind of unprompted gushing over Van Ness. Then we just see his grade seemingly very high for week one. It's at least a good start, and, he's got a sack. So everything's off to a great start. Well, now we have this from Micah Parsons.
It's gonna be so good. And I'm telling you, I think.
By the way, can I just point out real quick? He was talking about it's going to be so good. I didn't hear the full context. The question doesn't sound like it was about Van Ness. Sounds like the question was about the pass rush, and he quickly transforms his answer into Van Ness praise.
Van Ness is gonna have his best year yet this year. I'm gonna make sure of it. That guy. He's a very selfless player. He's very selfless. He's one of them guys that can go anywhere. He plays the run. He does everything. He's the high-quality player that you just want to be around. So I'm going to make sure that guy gets as many plays as possible. I believe in him, and I told him, I think you can be like a Cameron Wake. You can be like a Julius Peppers. You're a 4-5 guy, and it's time for you to show it. And we're going to put it together. We're going to keep working out together, keep labbing, and I'm excited to see how that turns out for him. It's going to be
just insane. Every time this guy speaks, I want to run through a freaking wall. First of all, very obvious he's obsessed with Van Ness. He genuinely he came here and watched everybody and thought, this Van Ness dude is a freak. Which, obviously, again, for Packer fans, is like, what? But that's a great sign. And then for him to name drop guys like Peppers and whatnot and be like, I'm telling you, and he's even acknowledging, look, it's obviously not all there yet, but you've got the speed, you've got the build, you've got all the run defense part of it. Whereas, Parsons, not really known for that, but he can be that other guy. Again, I'm not trying to leave Rashawn out of this, but Van Ness was looking quite scary out there. And he does have a very unique build. He is kind of built like, I don't know about Peppers necessarily, but like a Hutchinson type, where you've got all that big, massive size to stop the run, but also some surprising speed to go along with that. The other thing that gets you excited is, aside from the fact that he seems to be taking a bit of a leap here, which, we've been hearing it, but you don't really know until he gets on the field. Well, he got on the field and it looked good, and PFF's like, I'm telling you, he looked real good. In that dominant performance, he was one of your best. But you got one of the best pass rushers in all of football that has made it his personal mission to turn this guy into an absolute beast. What else we got here? From Zach Halprin. Detroit's 46 rush yards were its fewest since week 6 of 2023. We already did this one, but it's fantastic, especially that the national media is taking note, especially from this guy that I don't like, and I'm pretty sure he hates the Packers, Greg Rosenthal. Packers had 9 QB hits, 4 sacks. Lions had 2 QB hits, no sacks. Oh, what happened? Micah Parsons is from Ryan Wood. Biggest pressure, including interception to Evan Williams, came versus Lions all-pro right tackle Penei Sewell. Lions first blocked Parsons without helping Sewell. Parsons noticed more chips and doubles after he won the matchup. It's so funny that they initially were like, bro, we can shut him down with Penei Sewell. I ain't scared. Took like 4 rush attempts, not even 2. And they're like, yeah, we got to get our boy some help over there. Called Sewell his new division rival, replacing Lane Johnson. Says that's the type of respect that's warranted, but you have to earn it out there on the field. So I've got to show them that I can beat their best, and that's what happened. I love that. I love that while he's being respectful, he's like talking mad amounts of crap. He's like, look, man, in this league, it's all about respect, and you can't just come out here and expect people to respect you. I have to come out here and show my respect because these guys are so good. Penei Sewell is so good. The Lions are so good, So I had to come out here and I had to beat their best. I had to beat the best in the entire NFC North, which, of course, I did quite easily. But yeah, it's just a respect thing, He says that's going to be a rivalry here for the next 4 or 5 years. I guess he didn't hear the news. We actually have to get rid of him after about 2 years, because if we don't win in 2 years, this whole thing is over. So I don't know what he means for. Is he going to be here for 4 or 5 years? Huh. It's weird. I'm not going to be able to get rid of him. He's a heck of a player. I told him, I said, you're my new rivalry now. I don't got Lane no more. It's going to be you. I'm going to see you twice a year, so you might as well buckle up. It's going to be a long one. Another fantastic Micah Parsons quote. He says he expects the Packers to continue ramping him up when the Commanders come to town Thursday, but his back feels healthy. He didn't need an injection to play today. Beautiful news. Even outshot his expected snap count. And then he says, no doubt by the end of the month, we should be full go. Beautiful. Another great Micah quote, talking about how hectic this process was. He says, super relief, I'm telling you, like these last 6 months were super draining, super toxic for everyone. Something I don't think players should have to go through. I think players' fates should be decided earlier. The fact that I was traded 1 week before the season was really outrageous and rough. It's something where I could have been with these guys, getting better and better. We could have probably had an even more dominant start if that was the decision we were going to make. Just again, like he can't help but just dropping bangers all over the place. He's over here talking about like, oh, it was so rough and like I'm so drained. And it's like he just accidentally drops like we could have even been more dominant, Could have smoked him by even more points and maybe you just got a shutout or something crazy, But oh, I'm so drained. Like I didn't even try out there. Oh. I'm so happy it's behind me. The guys embrace me. They believe in my talents. They believe in me. I'm just going to give these guys everything I have because of what's at stake. I know what they gave up for me to be here. I'm going to do what it takes for us to win. We got a little thing from Next Gen Stats here. Next Gen doesn't actually have their stats up on their website yet, but they're posting stuff. Jordan Love was most successful attacking the Lions in the intermediate area, 10 to 19 yards, completing 6 of 8 for 108 yards and 2 touchdowns. Love completed passes to 10 different Packers receivers, including every receiver who ran at least 4 routes. Actually, I do think they have that part up. Let me find that. The insights. We'll get to that. Another little snippet from Micah.
I think you look at that defense, a lot of people underestimated those young guys that was going to step up, with the trade, and you see D-Wad and you see Kobe, them guys stepping up in the run. I think how many times they rushing, we have them to 50 yards rushing. So we got some real dogs up front, and that allows me to take my time, get all the way back. You see Van Ness, you see KB, you see Rashawn. I don't got to be in a rush to get back. This team is so loaded, and the sky's the limit, and I think we're going to be a really good football team.
This is the first time it feels like we just got a bunch of first-round picks out there, doesn't it? Doesn't it just feel like now you sit back and look and it's like, how do we have Van Ness and Wyatt and like all these years we've had just all this talent on defense? I mean, going back to a time before even, guys that are long gone, we've been drafting defense. Ted Thompson started that train a long time ago. It just never usually pans out very well. And for the first time, we're looking back at this just pile of talent, and it's like just all the switches just flipped on, and it's like, oh, I guess we're all really good. I know Edgerrin's a second-round guy, but geez. If Evan Williams can keep playing this way, and Edgerrin can play this way, and Quay seemingly had a pretty good day, and Xavier McKinney, and Rashawn Gary, and obviously Micah Parsons, and Lucas Van Ness, and Devontae Wyatt, and just all of a sudden we're just good now? Okay. Yeah. Heck yeah. All right, tell you what, Next Gen Stats does have over here on NFL Pro, they've got a handful of little insights from this game. We'll go through these fun little stats, and then we'll get out of here for today. There's still a ton more to go through, but it is pushing midnight, so I should probably get out of here. The Packers hit the Lions ball carriers behind the line of scrimmage on 16 of 22 carries, which is 73%. The highest rate the Lions have allowed in a game under Dan Campbell. Period. The Packers allowed minus 12 rush yards before contact and a minus 0.6 yards before contact per carry. It's even worse than what PFF had. The second worst mark under Dan Campbell. The Lions were also held to their fewest explosive runs in a game over the last 2 seasons. After playing just 1 snap in the first quarter, Micah Parsons played 28 snaps in the final 3 in his Packers debut. Packers defense allowed -2 rush yards on the 7 plays with Parsons on the field against the run, compared to 48 yards on the 15 others with Parsons on the field. As a pass rusher, Parsons generated 3 pressures on his 17 pass rushes, including a pressure that helped force an interception as well as a sack after beating a double team. Jared Goff got rid of the ball more than half a second quicker when Parsons was on the field, 2.8 seconds, compared to off the field, 3.36 seconds. Despite winning the time of possession battle, the Lions' offense struggled to put points on the board, scoring just 1 touchdown on 4 red zone drives. The Lions finished with just 4 explosive plays, recording their lowest explosive play rate in a game since Week 6 of 2021. Jared Goff averaged 3.3 air yards per completion in a loss to the Packers, his 5th lowest mark since joining the Lions in 2021. And one of my favorites, the Packers blitzed Goff on just 5 of his 43 dropbacks, dropping extra defenders into coverage and forcing Goff to take options underneath. This is exactly what the Packers wanted and needed. Goff attempted just 8 passes over 10 yards, completing 5 for 89. This is so shockingly good in terms of news. The Packers had to bring extra guys to generate pressure last year. They absolutely dominated up front and brought extra guys just 5 times out of 43. All right, I'm out of here. I'd give you a song, but it's almost midnight, so I'm out of here. You have a good whatever, and I'll talk to you whatever. Have a good one. Goodbye.